This is the final word. Australia v West Indies daily. Adelaide, day one. This show is brought to you by CBUS Super. Jeff Lemon, over to you for the 30-second summary.
Okay, Australia put the West Indies in to bat, and mostly it went pretty well. Bowled them out for 188, but that was largely thanks to a 10th wicket partnership of 55 between the debutant Shamar Joseph, one of Bharat's favourites, and Kemar Roach, although Kirk McKenzie made 50 batting at number 3. 4 wickets for Cummins and 4 for Hazlewood. Australia 2 for 59 in reply. Is there 123 behind? Is that? No, well, something like that, 120-ish.
Yeah.
And they're 2 wickets down with Green batting with Kawaja.
And who took those 2 wickets?
Oh, Shamar Joseph, should have mentioned that. Batted well, made 36 on debut at number 11. We'll come back to number 11 scoring runs on debut when we get to the Hall of Fame. And then rocks up and takes a wicket with his first ball. First ball in Test cricket. Now, Bharat, Adam and I were talking about this on Storytime just last week, the last edition of Storytime, about Arthur Coningham, who took a wicket with his first ball in Test cricket in the 1880s or 1890s. How it was a very rare club. There were only 22 members of that club before today. Now there are 23. And you spoke about taking him to find an arm guard and a cricket kit for his little son who was bugging him to get one. Well, whatever has happened, the luck has worked.
Yeah.
Look, West Indies didn't have a great day,
No.
but in many ways that seems to have been sort of glossed over by the fact that Shamar Joseph did have a great day.
But that's the beauty of sport, right? Like at times, yes, I mean results and outcomes matter, but it's a fairy tale nature of sport that really, at least for some of us, that's what tugs at our heartstrings. And Shamar Joseph, I will never tire of talking about the backstory that is Shamar Joseph. Just think about it, right? 2 years ago, he'd never even bowled with anything but a tape ball. Takes his big punt on his life, moves to New Amsterdam, the closest town from his village of Barakara, just randomly rocks up in a house, and next door to him is Romario Shepherd, Guyanese cricketer, who says, "Oh, you're good. I've seen you bowl here and there. You should go for this bowling camp," where Sir Curtly Ambrose notices him and says, "Okay, I'm going to keep an eye on him." Then he takes a punt, quits his job working for the security firm. And literally 14 months later, he's getting Steve Smith out of the first ball. And that was such a lovely press conference we just attended, where I asked him, because if you were watching the telecast anyway, he ran in and didn't bowl his first ball. Then he ran back. I thought he missed his run up. But, he's so honest. He said, "No, I was just nervous. I was bowling to Steve Smith." And how many times did he say Steve Smith during that press
Probably,
conference?
I'm going to say 17 times.
Yeah.
He talked about how Steve Smith was one of his favourite players, how he loved watching him play, and how he just got so nervous running in that he couldn't do it. He went back to the top of his mark, thought about it again, thought about the ball that he wanted to bowl, thought, "I want to hit the top of off stump," which, if we're being very specific, he didn't, because it was further back of a length than that. I mean, it was a great delivery, but not necessarily a deliberately great delivery if he was trying to hit the top of off stump. Bit of swing in the air. But it angles in at Smith, and Smith is so keen to move across his stumps, and he did that. Smith opening the batting for the first time. He whacked a couple of boundaries coming across his stumps and just picking the ball really off a length. They weren't short balls, but they were just length balls. He was clobbering away through mid-wicket. And he looks to move across against Joseph, but he gets the ball angling back in at him, and then I think it just moves away a touch as well.
Just a bit,
So he sort of defensively pokes at it as it's coming at around about the bottom of his rib cage, I suppose, that sort of length. And it skews off the edge into the gully where it's taken. Good catch as well. And fortunate they did take that, because Usman Khawaja got drops. What was it? The second over of the game, Alzari Joseph. The other Joseph, we've got a double Joseph, a Joseph off. We're joeing off here during this test match. But, that was a good delivery from Alzari Joseph that was quick. It took the edge. It looped through to De Silva behind the stumps. He had time. He leaned across to his left. He didn't need to dive. Just hit the heel of his glove. It's like he stopped watching it in the last few feet into the glove, and it bounced away. And so, so often you see that really punish a team. But I suppose if he'd taken that catch, then the nature of time being what it is, probably Shamar Joseph doesn't take a wicket with his first ball in tests. So maybe it was for the best. I don't know.
I think it was for the best. And speaking of that catch of Steve Smith as well, Justin Graves on debut takes that catch low to his left. And we've seen Pakistan put on their shambolic slip catching performance for that to go to hand. And then the celebration that followed. Shamar Joseph ran, and he said in the press conference, if he was allowed, he would have jumped over the stands and just kept running Imran Tahir style. But
Forrest Gump.
The Forrest Gump. Exactly. But no, because he had to come back and take another wicket. Manas Labuschagne, this time with a short ball. Manas was going after the short balls, wasn't he? He'd pulled a couple of previous occasions off Shamar Joseph. This time went for the hook, not the pull. Tried to clear fine leg. A very good catch again from Gudakesh Moti and Shamar Joseph on a day where, he kind of took West Indies' score from being extremely poor to poor, I guess 188 after Australia won the toss and elected to field. Under cloudy, gloomy skies here in Adelaide. There's a bit of drizzle in the air as well. It was raining in the Adelaide Hills where we are. He does that and then finishes the day with a wicket of his first ball with Steve Smith, and then of Marnus. And then when you asked him about the Marnus wicket, what did he say?
I said, did you enjoy the second wicket as much as the first? And he said, not at all. It was Steve Smith, man. It was Steve Smith. And I'm like, well, the other guy's pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Arguably better in the last few years. But he has got out pulling a fair bit, Marnus, lately. I don't know if that's just confirmation bias, if I think it's happening more often. But it seems to me like he wasn't... I don't remember him being a player who got caught at fine leg or caught gloving by the keeper much, and that's happened a fair bit recently. So that's interesting. Khawaja just did the sort of Khawaja thing, which was just be in a completely serene bubble and just come forward a little bit, hang back quite a lot, just smother everything that they could throw at him, tick over a little single here or two there. Had one luscious cover drive for 4, but played within himself for the most part, didn't seem to even notice the wickets that went down around him. So he's there on 30. Cameron Green's at number 4. What's he on? 6? Is he on overnight? And Green, rifled one. He didn't even rifle it. He just punched, just back foot punched through cover point. Real economy of effort sort of shot for the boundary that he had. So it'll be interesting to see whether he can do something at 4. Smith only made 12 his first time opening, but they've got a lot of time ahead of them. But it all traces back to deciding to bowl. I liked that. I thought that was an aggressive move.
Very much so.
If you're Australia, and the conventional thing is bat first. But if you know there's a mismatch, if you bat first and make a big score, then you've got that awkward third innings thing of if you bowled the other team out for a couple of hundred and you've made 400, then how long do you bat for in the third innings and so on. This takes that out of the equation. I guess you could say it's arrogant. Maybe it is. But if you genuinely think that you're supposed to beat this other team handily, then what you want to do is bowl first, know how many they've made, make however many you need, bat once, and then bowl them out a second time. So that'll be what they'll be shooting for. It was interesting that it was the two openers kind of did their job for a little bit. It was Brathwaite and Chanderpaul doing a little bit of what they did last year. They got through the initial Stark and Hazlewood spell, and then as it's been so often, Pat Cummins comes on, immediately makes a breakthrough, gets rid of both openers.
Yeah, first time since 1980 that an Australian captain won the toss in Adelaide and chose to bowl. And I was doing commentary with Ian Smith, and he said, if you are Kemar Roach and the two Josephs, you should be feeling really proud of yourself, because the last time Greg Chappell did that, the bowling lineup in the opposition was Roberts, Garner, Holding and Croft. So clearly, but that's just classic Ian Smith. So clearly, Pat Cummins is respecting Roach and the two Josephs. But look, I guess it's a sign of having a bowling captain as well. And you spoke about Pat Cummins breaking that opening partnership, but there was a period leading into that wicket where 40 balls were not scored off. And I think that was a problem the West Indies had throughout. There were there were just 3 outcomes: boundary, dot ball or wicket. And there were hardly any singles taken. In fact, I remember well into that last wicket partnership, there was an over where Roach and Shamar Joseph rotated the strike, took 3 singles in the same over. I think that was the only over, I might be wrong, but there were multiple singles in the same over. That's kind of was a story of the West Indian innings. But yeah, Pat Cummins breaks the opening partnership. Brilliant delivery to Craig Brathwaite. And then Josh Hazlewood does what he does in Adelaide, runs through the middle order.
Yeah, gets on a roll, takes 4, including Mackenzie, who did bat really well. He lays back and slashes through the offside. Left-hander, nailed a few. Did that classic thing when you're really up against it, though, of reaching exactly 50 and then nicking off immediately. It wasn't a bad shot. He just got a really good ball from Hazlewood, I think. So I wouldn't put that down to being his fault. There were a few shots that were the fault, or non-shots, I suppose. So Alec Athanasis, who's the current excitement machine, who may let us all down. The new Jermaine Blackwood, perhaps, I don't know. Hopefully, Blackwood did produce some fine innings in time. He was a sort of frustrating early career player. Athanasis left a ball that didn't really do a lot, to be honest. It was from around the wicket, it angled in. I don't think it seemed much, but he left it alone and it castled in. And then, there was the big slap straight to short cover, which was, as far as ways to get out go, it's among the more frustrating.
Yeah, and then Joshua Da Silva, I was a little disappointed because it was the
This is
most
daft.
Yeah, it was just the most basic plan. Pat Cummins had the two guys out. He plays one pull shot straight to square leg,
Yep.
okay. Then attempts another one, gets a top edge, just clears mid on. Next ball, tries it again and doesn't go full-blooded either. Tries to help it and hits it straight to Travis. I mean, it was a good catch
But
diving
there were
forward.
two out for it. There was a
Exactly.
deep square leg. There was a fine leg. There was a mid-wicket there saying Cummins is going to bump you a bit. He played one pull shot earlier in the over that he got a top edge to, and it happened to land safely behind square. And what does he do? Plays the same shot. And yes, he rolled his wrist on it. He was trying to keep it down. There was too much bounce on it. But, it's a big top edge. It soars out to Travis Head. And it was Greaves, wasn't it, to hit the one to cover.
He did, yeah.
As well. So a couple of those kind of annoying dismissals, especially De Silva having made 100 in the warm-up game and then
And with
dropping
the
a catch.
experience, yeah.
It's not a great start.
What a great
Not
start,
a great start
actually,
on
yeah.
Australian soil as far as the test matches go. And then, so it ends up being Hazlewood 4, Cummins 4,
Yeah.
and then Stark towards the end picks up one line, gets the last wicket to fall. But when they're 9 down, you're like, they're 9 for what,
133,
133. So they're cooked at that point.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that it was the player on debut went, okay, well, and he took a little bit of time.
He did,
Took a couple of overs, sort of assessed things, figured out what he could do, and then just starts taking down. And it was Hazlewood particularly, because he's bowling on a length, because he's bowling on a length, he goes back and goes, all right, I can tee this off the top of a length. And he had the confidence to do exactly that. And smacked him initially through mid-wicket. Then he rifles one back down the ground that almost takes out his opening partner. A couple of overs later, he bangs one over mid-wicket for 6. And I don't know, it was he wasn't afraid. And then my favourite bit of all this might almost be Hall of Fame is that they take the extra half hour to try to bowl it out before lunch. And he just keeps making runs through the extra half hour and bats past the lunch break.
And I asked Josh Hazlewood about the dynamic of the dressing room now that Steve Smith was not there and he was going out to open. And Josh Hazlewood said he kept trying to figure out what was going to happen when that extra half hour was taken, whether they will take the extra half hour, because obviously Steve Smith was already thinking about opening the batting. But before we even move on, Kirk McKenzie, you spoke about him making that half century. His father gives him two middle names, Sanjay and Alex. Sanjay for Sanjay Manjrekar, Alex for Alex Stewart. So Kirk McKenzie Sr., big cricket fan.
Okay.
So Kirk McKenzie Jr.
It's an interesting couple of players
It
to
is,
pick.
it is, yeah. And when you think
It's
that...
no Ratch and Ravindra.
No,
he's
not
not
really.
going for the obvious ones.
Exactly. So full credit to Kirk McKenzie Sr. Considering Sanjay Manjrekar would have played his last test in the Caribbean 11 years before young Kirk was born. But then Kirk McKenzie Jr. grows up idolizing Chris Gayle. But when you see him bat, he bats like Wavell Hines. So it's a lovely mix of all these cricketers rolled into one. Only guy to get to a half century. Looked good for more, but then he gets out. But like you said, the opening bar, the last wicket partnership, sort of kind of brought that game alive, didn't it? Like even the Adelaide crowd was cheering Shamar Joseph on.
Everybody loves a last wicket partnership except the bowlers. Let's go now to the Final Word Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, where we pick our most final word moment of the day. It's brought to you by CBUS Super. That's a superannuation fund. That means they look after Australians into their retirement. Over 900,000 of them. That is a lot of people. That is, 1/25 of the population of this country is with CBUS. And some of the population of this country, they're not old enough to have superannuation yet.
That's also
so,
correct.
it's a high proportion of eligible people. I'll have to work that out for another show. An average of 8.99% return on the default MySuper fund over the last 40 years, because they turned 40 this year. Past performance, not a reliable indicator of future performance. Sort out your super. If you haven't, get in touch with them. What jumped out at you, Hall of Fame worthy? What tickled your funny bone today?
Couple of things. Shamar Joseph, he had to be part of the Hall of Fame, had faced 3 balls in international cricket. West Indies batting first, so he's basically spent all of 7 minutes out there in the middle, and his shoelaces come off and he gets Manas Labuschagne to get him shoelaces tied up. I think I'm going to stick my neck out and say that's the earliest anyone in their career has asked someone from the opposition to tie their shoelaces. 7 minutes into international career. That was one. The other one I did tweet out was very mighty South Australian. There was a Balfour, and it was a windy day as well, and it was swirling wind. It didn't come from the north or the south. So there was a lot of debris floating around, and there was this just before the lunch break. This a rogue Balfour's wrapper, and Balfour's is what been South Australian since 1853.
Sure.
Kind of floated.
The state is built on the
It is.
solid custard, the brick-like custard filling of the vanilla slice.
We had a couple of them as well.
And by the way, and Adam White's been tweeting about this as well, who you've been working with on the radio. What doing with the coconut in the filling? Why are you putting coconut in the icing of a vanilla slice? Balfour's. What's going on there? That's not. We don't need. It's like when you go to a bar and the bartender's like, "Oh, here's my spin on a martini." Mate, Damien, I don't need your spin on a martini. All right, martini's fine as it is. A martini has got where it is because it's a really good drink. The vanilla slice is doing great. Every country bakery in this entire nation makes the country's best vanilla slice according to them. They don't put shredded coconut in the icing. Sort that out. Somebody get down to the factory, whoever the Kerry Packer at Balfour's is, get on the phone to the factory and tell them to go back to the tried and true. A few passion fruit seeds and a little bit of yellow food colouring, fine. I'm prepared to cop
Fair
that.
enough, yeah.
Coconut, no. You've got to call it something else. Don't call it a vanilla slice. Call it something else and it won't sell, I'll tell you that. Sorry.
It's strong. They're strong from Jeff Lemon, but
I'm not going to hold back on the important.
fair enough. I mean, at least the vanilla slice we get is for free. So that's one less thing we can complain about. But that rogue wrapper floated.
It's a matter of principle.
It is.
It's not a matter of finance.
I agree. Sorry about that, Jeff Lemon. And sorry, come on, Balfour's, pick up your game. So this wrapper floats in onto the outfield, Adelaide Oval, goes past a few fielders and settles nicely behind one of the two mighty South Aussies on the field, Alex Carey. And it just rests there till the lunch break. I don't know what happened to it later on, but it was just a very romantic South Australian moment for me.
Yeah, it was one of the strangest times that a rapper has interrupted a performance since Kanye West and Taylor Swift. What else today? The fact that at some point you realise I'm going to need to start looking up stats here because Shamar Joseph is batting and he's getting into the 20s and then into the 30s and you get into niche stats like, is this the highest score by a number 11 for West Indies on debut? And indeed it was. But he keeps going up the list and by the time he's out for 36, there are only 4 scores higher by any number 11 on debut. He's levelled up with Norman Cowans, who made 36 for England in Perth at the Wacker in 1982. And then ahead of him, there are only a couple of others. And there are only a couple of genuine number 11s among them as well, because one of them's Warwick Armstrong, who made 45 not out. I don't know why the big ship was batting at 11 on debut. Maybe they didn't realise he could bat yet, but he goes on to make 6 Test hundreds. He's not a true number 11.
Cool.
So he kind of morally... He technically counts, but morally not really. And Ashton Agar, who made 98 famously at Trent Bridge, tops the list, number 11 on debut. But again, he wasn't really an 11. He probably should have batted higher than that if they'd realised that he could actually play. There are only a couple of genuine 11s, and I now realise I can't remember who they are. But really, in terms of maybe Shamar won't turn out to be a genuine 11.
No, I don't think so.
He was asked if he wanted to move up the order, and he said 11's working out for me fine so far. So I like that. He'll take what he can get.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I think we've covered everything on day one here at the Adelaide Oval. That is the final word. Australia v West Indies Daily. I am Bharat Sundaresan. This is Jeff and Lemon.
Jeff and Lemon.
George
Lemon.
George Jeff and Lemon. And we'll see you tomorrow.
We will.
We will for sure. Day 2.
Patreon.com/thefinalword. See you soon.